What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Chris Francy. How you doing today, Chris?
Good, Dan. How are you?
I can't really complain. I'm joined by my very favorite audience member today, and very favorite audience member. This is what we're up to. A Chance Encounter is where I interview a commercial real estate investor. Why am I doing that? It's because we need to talk to every single commercial investor that we possibly can. And this is what I'm finding out. I'm going through the 5 different motivations that I found are distinct among commercial investors as far as why are they doing the next acquisition. Then I go through the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. And I say, hey, which one of these is your core competency? And the sneaky thing that I'm up to is I'm helping you communicate effectively on the topic of commercial real estate. And if you want your own one of these dice, and the one that you can actually download is actually nicer looking than this one, you can go to dandoesdeals.com. It's totally free. I don't even ask for your email address, even though I should. So you can go ahead and print it out, talk to your friends and family about how commercial real estate works. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Chris, can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Hey, Dan. Well, I'm a commercial investor myself, living in Las Vegas and investing across the U.S. In commercial retail properties.
All right, beautiful. Retail, good stuff. So let's go through the motivation piece then. So I just need to click this, and then I click that, and then I click this. And then it thinks about it, and then I hit this, and then I hit that, and then it actually shows up. Much better. So again, if somebody's new to commercial real estate, they'll know their motivation, but they won't know their role. So that's why I go through motivations first. The first motivation I found is some people are making new acquisitions because they need to preserve their purchasing power. Their biggest fear is inflation, because if you rely on the income that comes from your assets to make ends meet, if inflation rears its ugly head, then that's going to be able to buy you less stuff. So you have to keep on buying more acquisitions, properties, assets in order to stave off inflation. But that's not me. But trading time for wealth, that is definitely me. I've got a background in technology. I worked for a CRM company, and I opened up a CRM agency. So that's lead capture, funnels, online sales funnels, all that sort of fun, and mass marketing. And the reason why I pivoted from tech into commercial real estate is I was going, well, wait a second, I seem to be paying half of my income in the form of tax. And if I pivot and I make sure that I'm accumulating wealth or equity in return for my time and effort, then I'm skipping a step of that taxation. So that's what I'm up to. But most people I talk to, they're really more interested in fast tracking their retirement. And what that means is they don't want to have 40-hour work weeks or 80-hour work weeks for the rest of their lives. They want to cut it down to maybe like 1 month a year or 1 week a month or whatever it is. And that's what fast tracking retirement is. But that's in contrast to the next 2 groups. First one, they're so ambitious that they want to buy their entire hometown. Okay, they want the generational wealth. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. Okay, that level of ambition is great to have in a team because you know they won't stop. And the other ones who will never stop are the people who have some sector of society that they really want to help, and they realize that accumulating wealth is the most effective vehicle out there for being able to give back. So I like to say they want to save the world. Maybe they want to save some sector of society or the environment or animals or something like that, but there's something other than just the dollars and cents that they're actually up for. So Chris, of those 5 different motivations, what resonates with you? What describes you best? What combination of them really sounds like you?
pretty much the preservation of purchase power and just hanging on to the money that has been earned. I think that's my key lessons in life is um, to focus on preservation and keeping things going for the long term, and that way you can keep that lifestyle that you have and not have to put it in jeopardy with each new business gamble or something that you get involved with.
Beautiful, beautiful. So then, if you don't know so much about commercial real estate, this will probably be the part that you enjoy the most. Let's talk about the 6 different roles so we can see where Chris fits in it. So a repositioner is a person who looks at a whole whack of different deals. And what are they doing when they look at all of these different deals? They're looking for upside, okay? They want to figure out how can they make more money from this property than it is right now. They're underwriting it. It's the fancy word for doing the math. They're figuring out, okay, first of all, is this seller actually telling the truth? Is this business actually making what they say it is? And then after they've done that form of underwriting, they're thinking, how can we find that upside? And the main tools they have in the tool belt are, first is operations. You can make your operations more efficient, cut your costs, stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet. And there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rents and doing maintenance. There's also a marketing piece that's specific, that's especially relevant, I think, in retail, like you are, Chris. So you need a leasing agent who has good marketing skills. That's one of the things that I bring to my GP team, is that marketing side. But efficient operations isn't always going to be enough for a repositioner. So the other common trick they'll have is they'll get a contractor team to renovate the place, and then that way they can charge more in rent for each unit, okay? But there are a couple problems with that sort of way to finding upside. The biggest one for the repositioner, especially if they're like me, because I'm from the internet, is that I definitely need boots on the ground. I need a local. I need somebody who can be there in a moment's notice, because it's not going to be me, because I have to find my passport and pack my bags and do all sorts of stuff to get it and get anywhere near anything. And that's what most people call the owners, is that group of people. But of course, the other tool that a repositioner has for getting upside is going to a financier and getting preferable loans, cheaper loans than the current owners are really going to get. And so as far as the financiers go, like a capital raiser would be a form of financier, but in general, we're talking about mortgage brokers and banks. And the financiers, they're going to want to know something that I haven't mentioned yet, and that is the sponsor or KP, okay? If you want to buy a 350 unit apartment complex and you want to get a loan, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset. You also have to have a certain amount of liquidity, and you have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of loan. But if you have all of those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Chris, looking at it this way, what are your core competencies that you contribute in your retail deals?
So I contribute it all in my deals because I'm sort of the sole investor in those, not playing a role as a general, partner team or anything. So that's one thing about commercial retail, is you can kind of find investments that are close to bonds. You just collect 12 rents and everything else is handled tenant directly. So that's what got me involved in that, is being able to just squeeze the whole juice out of the lemon and not have anyone else involved in the investment path. But I also do some passive deals, so I fully understand that, limited partner role and general partner role. But for commercial retail, it was easy to get involved in. I think it's the simplest asset class for that reason. Don't have anyone really figured out like for leasing yet. I've tried brokers and that doesn't really work. So that's something we could talk about if you help me do leasing. I've tried softwares, Retail Lease Track. You're probably familiar with some of these. So boots on the ground is critical. I travel to all the assets, so I spend a lot of time traveling, several times a month to go take a look at things and, walk the block radiuses around the neighborhood, do a lot of driving and get familiar with what those demographics are, and whatever other neighboring businesses, what the vacancy rates are. There's so many things you can see boots on the ground that are kind of better than the Google Street Drive, because it's great how far technology has come. But I've found that, going out and actually visiting the properties is really critical too. So, so I play a couple of different roles there. Certainly not, as far as financier goes, right now, that's what got me involved, was these low interest rates. So as
Mhm.
long as all remains good there. I mean, I think, securing debt right now, over the last couple of years has been really critical to the success of this game plan. So
Mhm.
hopefully to continue my efforts there. So yeah, solo investor, kind of doing multiple hats there on your dice.
All right, awesome. And as far as an excuse me, as far as an ideal property goes, usually I end up interviewing. Sometimes I get self storage, but usually it's multifamily. Sometimes we get retail, and I ask for what's your buy box, what's your ideal property. So for you in the audience, just so we're clear on that, usually what you're asking for is the geography. Okay, so what states, what counties, things like that. If it's retail, then you're talking about proximity to major highways for sure. But the next thing that you're asking for is the unit count. Okay, so Chris, I think we have to get a lot more specific for that because it might be just triple net properties like a Starbucks on a corner, but it might be full shopping centers or strip malls. But so that's going to be a key part of the ideal property. And then the third one's the class. And class, unfortunately, they use the same word for two different things, and they use the same rating system for the two different things. The first one is for the condition of the property. Okay, so it's A, B, C, A plus, whatever. And then the second one is the nature of the neighborhood. So it's proximity to schools, it's crime rate, stuff like that. So, Chris, what's your ideal property as far as if somebody's bringing you something, it's way easier for you to say yes to that than it is to no?
A stabilized property. So in commercial retail, I'd be referring to, weighted remaining lease term across the tenants. Or for single tenant properties, the same applies. I mean, you're looking for stabilized without having to pay, ultra low cap rate price. So look to have some good cash flow coming out of the property to have an arbitrage with that lending, as I was earlier referring to. So, every point matters there in terms of percentages. And my goal is to be able to find something that's kind of the sweet spot on stabilized. You're also looking for like an investment thesis. So it's critical to know why the seller is selling, and everything kind of needs to add up and check all the boxes, so to speak, with motivations. I mean, the story behind every purchase is like critical to why I proceed. So yeah, wherever there's motivation, that's what's important in real estate, is you have a lot of flexibility. It's not a perfectly efficient market. So a specific seller motivation can come along and just make it all work out. And different sellers, like a bank or real estate owned portfolios, they're not operators. They're not going to run the real estate. So that can create an opportunity as well. So yeah, I've just been very opportunistic, I think, on the acquisition side.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay, so what about like I mentioned units before, but you might be more interested in the square footage or perhaps what the anchor is, like if you're doing like a big box sort of situation. So what else can you say about the properties that are ideal?
Yeah, totally. You just kind of have a customer facing view of the business and see whether you see it into the future. So, I have businesses like dollar stores, Dollar Tree and Dollar General. They're publicly traded. They're looking like they're very, strong in terms of their company balance sheet. So that's like the corporate credit rating of your business. But I've been very flexible. So one thing I'm not particularly caring about is like the square foot. So I go all the way down to like a single tenant fast food drive through, and up to bigger properties, over 100,000 square feet, or, big box stores like Dick's Sporting Goods and Petco. So I'm flexible in all that. It's just, for me, I'm just looking at the numbers, the investment thesis behind it. The geography matters. Obviously you want to be near uh, major metro or some kind of fully sustaining city that's not going anywhere. So
Hmm.
you kind of look at all these different factors and weigh it all together.
Hmm. Yep, that's beautiful. All right. And one thing that I love about commercial real estate in general is how helpful people are. And I chalk that up to the fact that nobody is all of the faces at the same time. So you always need, more of one particular kind of person than others. Me personally, because of my marketing background and technology, all that kind of stuff, I'm always on the lookout for more sponsors and KPs and also repositioners. But of course, this whole interview series is to make sure that I know every single commercial investor that I can find. So, as far as who you can help more than anybody else, and of course, be careful. You probably have some 506c syndications going on, and that means it's okay to entice investors. But if it's a 506b, you're not allowed to entice investors. So I got to warn the newbies about that. So if you could describe the perfect person in real estate who you could help out, then that'd be fantastic. Who are you best suited to help without breaking SEC restrictions?
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I'm not really acting as a general partner in any deal. So,
Mhm.
eventually may look into things like that in the future. But for now, I just participate in my own, kind of active portfolio investments. They're all commercial retail. Then I get exposure with the other asset classes through, limited partner deals. I'm just investing money. I have zero responsibility. I receive one tax form, the K1 at the end of the year, and just look at quarterly reports like any other investor. So
Mhm.
that keeps me diversified in other things.
Mhm.
As far as helping people who need it, I mean, I like to network with other investors so that I can source these investments. I'm willing to help, always look at a deal for somebody if they're interested in their own investment. But that's been critical to my success too, as I found a mentor early on, and he's guided me. He does commercial retail specifically and has guided me through a lot of that process. So
Mhm.
it's always good to pay it forward. So willing to do that with anyone.
Awesome. And what's the best way to reach out? We found each other through LinkedIn, and I made a stupid video with an AI avatar with the Iggy Azalea song. But what's the best way to reach out to you? Is it through LinkedIn, or is there a website that's better or something?
Yeah, I have LinkedIn. My email's chris@chrisfrancy.com.
Mhm.
So yeah, mostly just operate out of my inbox.
All right, beautiful. And the only thing that's left then is actually for you in the camera there, which is we have a little bit of a problem. If you look kind of down under my hand here, which is there's this big, ugly red button. And the only way to get rid of the big, ugly red button is by clicking on it. And then it turns into the gray button of tranquility, which has a magical power. The magical power of the gray button of tranquility is that YouTube starts to pay for these videos instead of me, which is better. And it's free for you. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no email addresses or credit card numbers or anything like that. All it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, and YouTube might end up starting to pay me for these videos. But just by hitting that button, you've done me an enormous favor, and you've helped your own eyes, because looking at that ugly red button is pretty much the worst thing ever. But you've done me an enormous favor, just like Chris. You've done me an enormous favor by joining me today. This has been fantastic, getting to know you better.
Yeah, good seeing you, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks.